What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this awesome built-in live edge desk. So for my little built-in desk, I have selected this giant gargantuan walnut slab. It's 2¼ inches thick, almost 24 inches wide, and almost 10 feet long. I got this slab from my local sawmill, Black Forest Sawmill. There's an amazing group of guys running it. They have some amazing slabs at some amazing prices. So I would definitely encourage you guys to go check out blackforestsawmill.com. The link will be in the description box down below. So this is the little nook where I'll be putting the desk. As you can see, it's almost 5 feet long and almost 2 feet deep. Now, typically when you drywall, you'll put something called corner bead on the corner where two pieces of drywall come together, and that just protects the corner and keeps the corner from getting banged in. And so when you go back to mud the corner bead in, you typically flare it out on top of the corner bead, and so when we put our straight edge up against here, there's going to be a little bit of a gap right about here. Now, originally I was going to account for that, but at this point I think it's so minor, I don't think it's worth the trouble. Now, when I put a straight edge up against the drywall, you can see what I was talking about, how they flared the mud out to meet the corner bead, and that gives you a little bit of a gap here. Now, originally, I was going to account for that, like I said, but at this point, I don't think it's worth it. And so, guys, now that we're ready to measure the inside of the little nook, that brings us to this week's video sponsor, Tack Life Tools. Tack Life recently sent me one of their products. This is their digital tape measure. It's got a regular tape measure on it, but it's also got a digital laser reading, which is what we're going to use for this. This thing is actually really cool because it's packed full of so many features you wouldn't expect it to have. Using this little unit button on the side, you can adjust between meters, feet, inches, centimeters, and everything else in between. And again, huge thank you to Tack Life Tools for sponsoring this week's video. And it's probably going to be very, very difficult to see, but we've got 55 and 5/16 of an inch. Alright, I've got the slab flipped over, and I've got it marked out where I'm going to cut it roughly to the length before we cut one edge straight. Alright guys, the slab is cut. There is no turning back now. So I know that my nook is 19¼ inches, so I want to make my slab at the widest point 18½. So I found the part of my slab which sticks out the furthest, which is this corner, and I measured about 18½ inches off of the widest part of this. And so then I used my tape measure and I laid it down my slab until it looked. And so this is where I'm going to cut my slab down the middle, right on this tape measure line. Alright, so guys, I'm back down in the shop, not in the garage anymore, and that's because before we cut the slab to length, we need to cut some little blocks that we can screw into the wall so the slab can sit on top. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So we've got a piece of walnut that I cut to 15 inches long, and it is 2 inches thick. So what I've done is I've used a level and a tape measure to go around and make a level line where I want my desk to be. I have used a tape measure to measure up 30 inches from the floor, and then I used a 4-foot level to make a level line all the way around the nook. This is going to give us a reference line so we know where to screw our little blocks into the wall. Another thing I went ahead and did is I got a stud finder and I marked the locations of all my studs on the wall so I know where I have to pre-drill and countersink holes in our little walnut blocks. Alright, so our first block is going to go about here. Let's just transfer those marks over onto the block. And let me just label which one this is. Alright, now let's just go back to the shop and we can pre-drill and countersink those holes. Alright, so now when I put my little piece up here, my screw holes line up perfectly with my studs. And these are 3-inch screws going through about 1 1/8 of material and 1/2 inch of drywall. So we've got plenty of screw going into the stud. Yeah, those aren't going anywhere. So now we've got something that we can rest our slab on to see if it's going to fit. So now that I've got my slab cut to final length and final width and it fits good in the wall, I'm going to do a little bit of bark repair. So about 1/4 of the slab didn't have any bark on it, so I broke up a bunch of random pieces of bark and I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue to hold them on temporarily. Then when I go back to fill all the little knots and voids with black epoxy, I'll pour some epoxy down in and hold them in permanently. Alright, so the slab has been sitting overnight, it's been drying, and as you can see, our little bark graft there looks really, really good. With a little bit of sanding, you'll never know that I added the bark there after the fact. And then yesterday, I also put a little bit of 5-minute epoxy in some of the tiny little knots and voids. Alright, so I got one side of our slab completely sanded down. Now I just got to do the bottom side, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to sand this all the way down, or if I'm just going to leave it mostly rough, but just knock down all the high spots. Alright, so I decided to just sand it all the way down, just why not. So the bottom is completely sanded. I also rounded over all the bark, as you can see here, and I think that gives it a really, really nice look, especially since we added on a bunch of bark over here. It really helped to blend everything in, and now you can't even really tell where all the new bark is. And for the finish, I'm just going to use good old General Finishes Armor Seal. And this is the semi-gloss. Guys, this project turned out incredible. I really like the finish that I put on here. The General Finishes Semi-Gloss Armor Seal is now my go-to finish because of how good it turns out. And I'm very glad that I left all the bark on there. I think it gives it a really cool look and makes it look a lot more natural and rugged. And again, a huge thank you to Sean over at Black Forest Sawmill for providing me with this incredible walnut slab. Every time I visit Sean at Black Forest Sawmill, I am always in awe of how many cool slabs they have, so definitely go check them out. Like I said, the link is in the description, and they do ship. Guys, definitely be sure to go check out my website, Seth'sCustomCreations.com. I've got products on there, more information about me, and a lot of other stuff you might be interested in. So the link will be in the description box down below to go and check out the website. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Seth's Custom Creations. I'll put the name on the screen there for you. I post a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and stuff that doesn't get put up on my YouTube channel over on my Instagram. And lastly, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss all of the cool projects that are coming up. There's a lot of cool stuff in store and you don't want to miss it. So hit the subscribe button and also be sure to hit the notification bell so that way you get notified whenever I post a new video. I'll see you guys next week.